Yes, welcome into SportsBIT. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Wednesday, February 8th, big game breakdown. Cavs and the Pacers, Heat and the Bucks. The red-hot Heat try to make it 12 in a row, believe it or not. Baylor and Oklahoma State. The deep dive, Super Bowl 52 odds. We'll give out a long shot that's worth a wager. We'll run down some teams as well and go over the odds for next season. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Let's get to college. Maryland, Penn State over 139.5. Bet up to 140, fell 134. Didn't get there in that one. And look at this, Teddy. Plenty of money. Bad bet on Georgia. They were bet down to 4. Florida is on fire.
Yeah, I mean, how good is Florida right now? The numbers surprised me. I didn't think Georgia would be as big a home dog as they were, and I wasn't surprised to see Bulldogs money. But Florida, wire to wire, winning by 12 in Athens. And you look at the Gators, they're a 5-loss team. 4 of their 5 losses have come by 5 points or less. And that includes a game against Gonzaga, another game against South Carolina, another game against Florida State, are all legit top 25 teams. The 5th loss came by 10 points in the Jimmy V Classic against Duke. Gators playing some pretty good basketball, and the market's showing signs of respecting that. But last night, obviously, the money came the wrong way.
Yeah, bad bet. Our play of the day, Michigan State lost by 30 against Michigan, hammered on the road, never in it. And there's going to be cold streaks. We're going through one right now. But number one, we're not a pick show. This is SportsCenter for Bettors. We give you great information. 47-29 for what it's worth on the football season. And there was just an 11-2 run that we had as far as basketball as well. So, hey, there's going to be ups and downs. We're going through a slow period right now, Teddy.
Yeah, bottom line, though, we gave out a bad pick yesterday.
Yes,
Sparty.
Yes.
Sparty got their ass kicked. And I was wrong about the line move. I was wrong about the side. Impressive performance for the Wolverines and Michigan State. A couple of times this year I thought maybe the Spartans are going to get in it. Maybe they're getting it. Now's their time. But again, we haven't seen the consistency from Michigan State. Even here in February, a time of year we tend to like to bet on Tom Izzo's teams.
Yes, always fun part of the show. The bad beats. LSU, Kentucky under 172. It fell 177. It was only on 70 at halftime, Teddy.
It was at 160 with a minute 30 left. You're live. You're not feeling great about it, but you're live. But 130 left, LSU down 12. One miss. You're talking about dribbling out. One make. And now we start the foul situation. Well, the Tigers ended up playing the game all the way out. Game lands 177. That was a tough beat if you had that under.
Where does this rank? Alabama, South Carolina, under 130. It goes to 4 overtimes.
Yeah. Well, remember, they're at 114 at the end of regulation. They're at 126 at the end of the first overtime. So not only was the under right, the under was good enough to survive an overtime. Of course, after 4 overtimes, when Bama wins 90-86, under bettors didn't have much to smile about. And the only one madder than under bettors might have been Frank Martin last night. South Carolina, 17 more field goal attempts, 17 more free throw attempts, and they still lost the game. It was a brick fest from the Gamecocks last night. 26 of 88. A rough night shooting.
You see this all the time in college, and Avery Johnson doesn't have an excuse. He coached in the NBA. Stop with the clogged toilet offense. Actually run something at the end of the game. Don't have someone play hero ball, dribble, and then take a shot I wouldn't attempt in a game of horse. Cut it out and run something. They pay you millions of dollars. Drives me nuts. Also a bad beat. Claude Julien. What a horrible job here by the Boston Bruins. They fire him the day of the Patriots parade and have the press conference to announce it while the parade's going on. He was the longest tenured.
He's been there He's been there for 10 years.
Yes.
He won a cup. He was the longest tenured coach in the NFL. Let's fire him while everyone's attention is focused on something else. Yeah, not a real good PR move from Boston. They could. I don't mind firing a guy. Sometimes the coach has got to go, but do it in a classy way, not like that.
Yeah, don't take away from the Patriots' victory parade. That is garbage. And then the fact that you have the presser while the parade's going on, like no one's going to come and ask questions. That's Mickey Mouse ridiculous in minor league. Bad for the books. Brooklyn and Charlotte total. It's amazing how many times this happens. Total bet from 217 to 219. Whoops, lands 218.
Yeah, that wasn't the only middle last night. Dallas, they were -1 early in the morning. They were +3 by tip-off. And then Dirk hits the 3, supposed to be the game winner with 3 seconds left. That ensures Dallas is going to cover. But then McCollum hits the game winner for Portland at the end of with the clock hitting zeros. 1 point Blazers win. So the Blazers are plus 25 on the glass. They have an 18-2 edge on the offensive boards. They still don't cover. And the books didn't work out too bad on this one. Because even though Dallas was -1 and then but up to +3 and they end up losing by 1, even though the game falls in the middle, most of that move came very early. And all day on Tuesday, Dallas was +1.5, +2, +2.5, +3. So the books probably made out all right, even though the game did land right in the middle. Dirk, with what should have been a game winner, didn't get there.
Gather around the campfire, story time. This happens once in a while in Vegas. You rarely hear about it. You had the great, the biker bandit at the Bellagio walked in dressed like Iron Man off his motorcycle and robbed the place, and then a couple of days later was actually playing in the poker room at the very place he robbed. And they caught him because he bragged about it and was having problems unloading those $25,000 chips. Was it last week, Teddy, or 2 weeks ago at the Silverton Racing Sportsbook? A guy robbed the Sportsbook, got away with it. He struck again at another casino, had a gun. They caught him. Amazing that the guy went back and they got him this time. Wild story, Teddy.
Well, yeah, and we're talking about, somebody walking into a sports book and holding it up with a gun. It doesn't happen every day. It happens once in a while. You got to have a lot of balls and be pretty desperate to make that move, because obviously walking a casino and trying to make moves, there's cameras everywhere, there's security everywhere, and they have panic buttons everywhere. That apparently was this guy's demise.
Oh, wow. But wow. Thank God no one was hurt in that one. So we go from that story to a good story, feel-good story. You like what Beal and John Wall did?
I love it. What a classy move. Beal and Wall take out an ad in, what was it, the Washington Post? Wherever it was. They took out a big ad. And, on behalf of our teammates, just want to thank all of the Wizards fans for giving us one of the best home courts in the NBA. The atmosphere last night was amazing, the best since we've been in D.C., and another step in what you helped us build over our 17-game home winning streak. We're in this together, so we're counting on you to continue that tremendous support on Friday when we look to start a new streak throughout the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs. Thank you for your support and for being part of our DC family. The Wizards, a team with it seems like an infinite history of PR blunders and bad moves. This is a good move for Washington. It is a good story. And boy, I'll tell you what, they played their guts out against the Cavs, even though they came up short. I'd expect to see more of the same classy move, no question.
Up next, big game breakdown. Cavs and the Pacers. The Heat trying to set a record. We'll explain. And we'll also get to Baylor and Oklahoma State and NFL. Let's take an early look at next season in the deep dive. Coming up on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
All right, back on SportsBIT, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, as always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Let's start in the association. Good game. Cavs hit the road to take on the Pacers. Cavs continue their road trip. They are 2.5, 215 the total. Did the trip to London and one game in 8 days help turn Indiana's season around. They lost against the Lakers and Utah back-to-back road nights. 9-1 in all other games since London. 7 straight wins. And believe it or not, they're doing it with defense, Teddy.
Oh, yeah. That's been the key. This game is a classic clash. We have that Cavaliers offense that, as we saw in Washington the other night, can be pretty tough to stop versus Indiana's strong defensive lane, besides the Paul George versus LeBron matchup. But, look at the other day. Against Oklahoma City, Indiana shoots under 38% from the floor. They shoot, 65% from the free throw line. They get out-rebounded by 24 in that contest, and they still won the game. What does that tell us? Yeah, they're playing defense. Nate McMillan, quote, "Defense was the difference in the game. That is what we want to be about. That's what we're going to be facing the rest of the season. Most of the teams that we're going to be playing are going to be teams that are in the playoff race. Certainly this week, that atmosphere we played in tonight, we can expect this for the rest of the season. I like the way we responded in the second half. We got tough, and mentally we started to fight through and play the game that we needed to play to win."
Yeah, look at these graphics. NBA defense since Indy's London trip. Cavs are 21st in defense, 109 points per 100 possessions. And the Pacers are third at 101. But on offense, the Cavs are fourth. The Pacers are 19th. How about that?
Well, yeah. I'm not sure the Cavs defense is going to get a whole lot better. They shot, 53% against Washington. They hit 19 triples. LeBron went nuts in the fourth quarter. He had 17 assists in the game, and yet even with that, they're life and death to win the game. LeBron's talking about adding a playmaker. I think the Cavs might need someone who can guard a little bit more than a playmaker. Look at the defensive numbers. Significantly down from last year. Last year, number 10 in the NBA. This year, down to number 17 in terms of points per 100 possessions. And of course, my biggest question for this game, Cleveland, they were interested at Washington on Monday. The Wizards got their attention. You wonder if they're going to match that intensity here. If they can, and have the switch has legitimately been flipped for Cleveland. We're talking about a team that's now 3-0 straight up and against the spread their last three. And the markets have at least modestly devalued them. Certainly looking at the point spread against the Wizards and this one against Indiana. We're not talking about a Cavs team that is being overpriced in the markets right now.
All right, game number 2, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Heat at the road to take on the Bucks. Milwaukee, the Great Land, 3.5, 210 the total. A month ago, we talked about Spoelstra being able, great at drawing up plays, but nobody can make an open shot. Now Miami goes for the all-time record. Believe it or not, the all-time win streak by a team under 500. They're tied with the 96-97 Suns, 11 in a row. They started 11-30.
Yeah, they were 11-30. They'd lost 10 out of 11 when this winning streak started. They were 1-10 their last 11 games. They just lost Justice Winslow for the season. I thought Winslow was going to be a big part of that team this year. Instead, out for the year in the midst of a nasty slide. And what's going on when they're covering these numbers or winning these games? How about this? 10-0-1 against the spread. They haven't lost ATS in 11 games. 6 outright underdog wins. You're betting them on the money line. You're cashing in. And all of a sudden, this team's 2 games out of the 8th seed, Pauly. Spoelstra, quote, "We've gone through just about everything else. How to play with a ridiculously bad record, how to play with adversity, how to play through injuries, how to play without making excuses. Now, we have to be able to play to our identity when you're dealing with a little bit of success and not let human nature sink in. These guys are gaining a ton of confidence offensively."
Yeah, and there was talk that they were going to tank, and now they continue to win and take off, and Dragic has been great as well. Then you got Milwaukee, just 2-10 in their last 12 games. Rare in-season break and no games for 4 days. Finally, can they get Middleton, a healthy Middleton, back on the floor?
Well, yeah. Look, the Bucks have gone through a really rough stretch in late January, early February. 2-10 their last 12, as you mentioned. But they closed out their road trip the best possible way. An annihilation, 137-112 at Phoenix to snap the skid. All right. And you're talking about getting Chris Middleton. Middleton's been cleared to play. He's going to be on the court tonight. They're also going to have Hibbert and Hawes on the court. Remember the trade of the big men that nobody wanted. Nobody really paid attention to the trade. Where Greg Monroe's terrible contract. He's getting $51 million, Monroe, over 3 years. He's in Charlotte. Hibbert and Hawes now in Milwaukee. So they've got 2 big men who are glad to be there, and Middleton back on the floor. And of course, he was with the team on the road trip. He's been taking part in practices. And we're talking about a guy who was number 20 in the NBA in real plus-minus last year. A legitimate difference maker. Number 2 in the NBA behind James Harden at shooting guard. Gets nowhere near Harden's pub. Middleton's a difference maker on the court, and certainly the betting markets are noticing that and respecting his presence tonight with Milwaukee laying the points.
Yes, not a great card. Thursday's dynamite. But we finish it out with college. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Baylor and Oklahoma State. Cowboys 2.5, 148.5 the total. Baylor falls from 2nd to 5th in the AP rankings. They're playing for seeding. Oklahoma State trying to make the tournament. Underwood's doing a great job. His first year he came in from Stephen F. Austin, and Oklahoma State only 15-8 overall, 4-6 in conference play, but they've won 5 in a row, Teddy.
Yeah, they just beat Oklahoma and West Virginia back-to-back on the road last week. Now they're number 21 in the nation from Ken Pom, number 22 from Sager, and so maybe they're on the bubble, but the advanced metric numbers say watch out for the Cowboys. Of course, Baylor was minus 12 in the first meeting, and they barely won that game, 61-57 at home. Oklahoma State with a 5-point lead at halftime. Baylor was able to pull away late. They ended up doubling Oklahoma State at the free throw line. And, of course, Manu LeCompte, check out the picture here, 17 points and 3 assists in that contest.
Yeah, Scott Drew, I'll reluctantly read this. Scott Drew, after the loss to Baylor and K-State, quote, "We've got 8 games to go. The Big 12 champ usually loses 4 games. We still control our own destiny, and that's what everybody wants," end quote. If it's a predetermined set of events. If it's predetermined, you can't control it. I'll be that guy. In any event, what do you think here, Teddy? Is it cause for concern if you're Baylor, or will they be okay?
Well, I mean, yes, I do think Baylor will be okay. And I think that the back-to-back losses, again, look at the point spread. The point spread is the great equalizer. This was a Baylor team that was overvalued, 3 weeks ago. And a team that has come back to earth. But that doesn't mean they're dead. But, of course, I don't know that Oklahoma State's a team that I'm looking to step in front of right now. Look, in the first meeting between these two teams, the Cowboys only got 8 points on 2 of 12 shooting from Juwan Evans, I should say. Look at the pick here at Baylor. But he's been on fire ever since then. 22 points, 4.5 boards, 6.3 assists over the last 4 games. And something that Oklahoma State did in the win at West Virginia really stood out to me. They won the battle of the boards 30-16. They held West Virginia to 16 rebounds in the game. Real toughness in that contest. Bob Huggins after the game, quote, "I've never had a team in 35 years get out rebounded 30-16. Never. And that's playing everybody that's any good in college basketball."
All right, dynamite. Play of the day coming up. Before that, let's get to Super Bowl 52 odds. We're on it down courtesy of the Westgate, the LV Superbook. And we'll talk about a long shot and some teams maybe you can throw some money down. Let's get to that next on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Back on SportsBIT, Pauly and Teddy at Pauly Howard on Twitter and Teddy_covers. Time for the deep dive. Super Bowl 52, Sunday, February 4th, 2018, US Bank Stadium, Minneapolis. And the odds came out after Super Bowl 51. Now listen, the tourists love to bet this stuff because they're rarely in town and they want to have some interest in action while they're in Vegas. But this is something for a local. These are tough to bet. Before the draft and especially free agency, no thanks.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is for discussion purposes only. Have I taken any money out of my wallet to bet any of these? I have not. Do I expect to take any money out of my wallet to bet any of these in the near future? I do not. It is worth noting, as you mentioned, though, the original odd, the very first odds came up back in January. And since that time, they were reposted after the Super Bowl. They moved the odds down on 19 of the 32 teams. Shorter odds. They didn't move the odds up on any of them. So it just tells you how tough this market is. And the Westgate Superbook, these are the good guys. Jay Kornegay, literally, they're the good guys in Las Vegas. Their whole percentages are reasonable. The amount that the propositions and the takeout for even these future book wagers are very reasonable compared to most of the sports books in Las Vegas. When the good guys are chopping your odds on 19 of the 32 teams, tells you how tough it is to beat the bad guys. But that being said, Pauly, let's talk about them. We got some numbers to talk about. It's always interesting, even though these aren't teams that we're planning on betting anything.
Yes, believe it or not, I'm starting with the Browns. 300-1. They're awful. They're lucky they won a game. But I think they're going to be in the running because they got 2 top 15. What are they sitting there, number 1 and number 12? I think they could make a trade and get Garoppolo.
Now, let's talk about factors that we don't know anything about yet. We don't know anything about the draft. We don't know anything about free agency. We don't have schedules yet. We have a strength of schedule, and the opponents, I believe we have at least 14 of the 16 opponents already determined. But we don't have a strength of schedule based on season win totals for next year. So we are going with incomplete information. That being said, I know that it's never happened in the history of the NFL where a team goes from 1-15 to win the Super Bowl. But come on, Pauly, the Browns aren't winning the Super Bowl next year. Cleveland might be a real good bet. I expect them to be lined.
They can make the playoffs.
Maybe
I'm not
6
saying
wins.
they will, but you can. The Miami Dolphins went from 1-15 to winning the division. I mean, it can be done, even in that tough division. If they make a trade and get Garoppolo and all those picks, who knows? Maybe they get in the playoffs and you got a shot.
I'm with you on being bullish on the Browns. I like the Browns. I think there's money to be made with the Browns, potentially, in 2017. But those are the type of bets I don't want Super Bowl futures on I want week-by-week wagers or over-under win totals. Super Bowl futures, I'm looking for teams that have a chance to actually win it all. And let's start with the two that were just in the Super Bowl. We have the Patriots and the Falcons. Any interest in either one of those two teams? Is New England going to go back? Is Atlanta going to go back?
New England definitely. I don't think Atlanta bounces back. I don't think you recover from a loss like that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. In terms of the Patriots are contenders evermore until proven otherwise. We're talking about a team that's gone over their win total, 11 times in the last 12 years. All they do is win the division and have opportunities and find ways to, whatever. Let's not talk about the Super Bowl. But for Atlanta, now you got Sarkisian. What do you think of that move for the
That's
Falcons?
horrible. I couldn't believe that. I mean, Chip Kelly was a layup to me. I mean, the last time we saw this guy, he was showing up to work drunk at USC.
Okay, so he coached a decent game in the national championship game. It wasn't Sarkisian's fault that Alabama's defense fell apart. What I'm looking for when we start talking about NFL futures, I want teams that are live, and let's call it an arbitrary number in the range of 30 or 40 to 1 or higher. That's, if I'm going to actually put my money on something, that's the range I'm looking for. Teams that might end up being pretty good that are still being priced as long shot. There's a handful of them here. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears as a team. Again, we don't know what their quarterback situation is, but when you talk about injury-riddled squads from last year, there's hope for in 2017. The Bears are one of those type of teams, and I would expect them, again, you're not getting a ridiculous number here, but 100 to 1? What do you think of Chicago, Pauly? Are they live in that range?
No interest. No, I don't want any part of Chicago. Now, I do want a piece of the Texans because Peter King thinks the Texans are going to cut Osweiler and eat the money and just say, that's it, you can't play, we're done. Now, that could be a landing spot for Romo. And the team that trades for Romo, you become an instant contender. I mean, you put Romo on that team, they might have beat the Patriots, how good that defense is.
Well, that's just it. And, of course, they get J.J. Watt back next year as well. So Houston, one quarterback away from not just being a playoff team, but being a legit contender to New England. In the East, let's get a Matthew Stafford pick up there.
Oh, no.
What do you think about the Lions next year? You want the Lions to win it all, Pauly?
Never. Stafford's never won a playoff game. I don't want any part of Stafford. I do think there's some value there with the Eagles, though. I think Wentz can make a big step in year 2.
Yeah, Philadelphia was a team, they had I have mixed feelings about the Eagles. Because I knew their schedule was going to be brutal this year. Their schedule is going to be as good, notch or two easier a year from now. Philly had so many cheap scores on defense and special teams. It's hard to do that 2 years in a row. But, boy, there were a lot of positive signs in Philadelphia this year. And that defense might end up being pretty good. And a good defense can take you a long, long way. Two teams that I got my eye on out of the AFC, Pauly, and let's talk about them real quick. One, of course, and I'm not convinced Cincinnati's going to get back into it, but if you're looking to take a flyer on someone, Cincy, they've got the quarterback who's been to the postseason, they've got playmakers, they have a defense. What do you think of the Bengals and Marvin Lewis?
Absolutely not. No way. Never. He's never won a playoff game. Either is Andy Dalton. No way I'm betting on Marvin Lewis in a playoff game. Not only is he 0-7 in the playoffs, he's never scored more than 17 points? Never scored more than 17 points in any of those playoff games. That's embarrassing. Titans? Now that could be something there. I mean, Mariota played well. They almost won the division, just missed out. That could be something.
Yeah, and one of the things that you want to recognize with the betting markets for NFL futures is that the hot teams are going to take money. And there's two hot teams I want to talk about right at the end here. We talked about the Tennessee Titans, a team that played well last year, has the quarterback, has the running game, has a lot of things that the markets are going to be attracted to. The money on Tennessee is going to come. You can count on it. If you like the Titans, that's one team you might want to bet now as opposed to waiting. The other, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Winston and Mariota came into the league together. Why do I feel like they're going to go to their first Super Bowl together at some point? I think that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe it's this year coming up, but the bottom line is Tampa, too, like Tennessee, has the makings of an up-and-coming team. They will be attracting betting market support. If you like Tampa, you might want to get involved in a future on them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Dirk Cutter did a good job. That could be live there, too, and also in a tough division. I think Atlanta takes a step back, just like Carolina did this season. Money time, play of the day, betting number 511, 512. Wrong yesterday, way off. Let's get back on track. Heat and the Bucks over 210. Miami getting it done offensively, and Milwaukee likes to run as well. Waiters averaging 22 points per game in his last 9. Should be up and down. We like the pace in this one. Let's go over 210 with the Heat and the Bucks. Great card Thursday. We got the SportsBIT Google Hangout every Thursday at 8 o'clock Pacific. And we have North Carolina Duke, UCLA Oregon. Come on, you got to be kidding me. Plus Saturday is Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Huge week of shows coming up. And don't forget to hang out. Ask us any questions you want on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. Fun show. We're back Thursday on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.